hand feature for the two noticed public hearings that we have.
I shall give you that opportunity. It's exactly 7, and I'm going to call the meeting of Milton Plan Commission for March 23rd, 2021 to order. And Abby, the first item is the roll call.
Bruce,
Here.
Murray,
Here.
Paulson,
Here.
Ramsey,
Here.
Schaefer,
Here.
Slavish,
Here.
and Brar is present.
All right, Abby. So it's all yours to give the instructions how to raise hand or anything else which you want to share.
We have quite a few members from the public joining this evening. And so I just wanted to quickly mention that if you are not on the commission, and if it is not a public hearing item where you wish to speak, if you could please just mute yourself during the meeting. That way we won't have to worry about any feedback or any disruptions during the meeting. We do have 2 public hearings, and those are the opportunities where people from the public are able to speak. And those items are the conditional use permit for Mocha Coffee Shop and the rezoning for the Chittister property on University and Park Street. So when the mayor opens those 2 public hearings, if you are here and you wish to speak on one of those items, the best way to let us know is to click on the item that says participants, and then click on the little icon for raising your hand. And that way Mayor Brar can see that you have your hand raised and he can call on you during the public hearing. And that is all I had.
Thank you, Abby. All right. So the first public hearing is at 7:10. So
Abby,
let's go to
Mayor,
Yes.
just if someone is on a desktop version of Zoom, it's no longer under the participants panel, it's under the reactions button. So you click on reactions and you can also click on the button that says raise hand.
Okay, thanks for the heads up on that.
So,
I think
yeah,
I corrected
sometimes-
somebody on that the other night. I said, no, it's not under reactions.
It is now. They
It is.
changed it recently, so.
Okay.
Okay, they should try both and see what works.
I'm sorry, what?
If
Sorry
they
to
don't
interrupt.
even- Oh, thank you, Kurt. So, okay, so the first item is the approval of the minutes, approval of the Plan Commission minutes of March 9th, 2021. Need a motion to approve.
Schaefer moves approval.
Okay, motion by Commissioner John Schaefer, and need a second. It looks like Randy's ready.
Murray will second.
Okay, second by Jennifer Murray. Any questions or comments or any changes? Yeah, I did read them and they all look good. Okay, so the motion is through the Plan Commission minutes of March 9th, 2021. Motion by Commissioner John Schaefer and second by Jennifer Murray. All those in favor of the motion say aye.
Aye.
Anyone
I
opposed?
couldn't
So the
get it.
motion-
I can't get a picture.
We can
Because
hear
my
someone
computer
speaking
doesn't
right
work.
now. If you could just please mute yourself.
Okay, so the motion passed unanimously. We are on to the agenda items. Item number 1. And this is the design review of O'Reilly Auto Parts 6209 Century Avenue. Stephanie.
Yes, so we did receive a lot of feedback on the elevations, and we did note that the applicant did not provide all 4 elevations, as well as they're missing a lighting plan. And so I spoke with the applicant, and they would like to defer until they get all of those items ready. So they'll be at the next meeting.
Okay, well, I actually did go there. And, there's that old building and there was a parking lot and I ran into one of the police officers eating his lunch there. So so it is, so I know exactly where it is but you know, you're right. So, okay, so we did get some input there, and I would imagine there was one question by various folks that, you know, that it looks like a box, which it is. There's no windows and things, but I guess that's how the O'Reilly parts are. If there is somebody from O'Reilly here, could you please answer that, one of the questions?
Sorry, what was the question, Mayor?
Yeah, the question is, this is probably their standard design for all the O'Reilly Auto Parts, right?
Right, yeah. So the applicant who submitted it is actually their civil engineer, and so he was working on all the structural parts. And so O'Reilly's is the one that sent the like exterior and like the architectural parts of it. So this is, I believe, their standard like newer type of building.
Okay, so they don't, if they don't have windows somewhere else, they're not going to have them here. And I don't think we're going to ask them anyway. So, so the motion is to defer then. Okay, I go ahead and make that motion to defer. I need a second.
I'll second. Paulson?
Okay, second by Kurt Paulson. And the reason for deferment is that the applicant would like to defer it. So, because they don't have, well, they would like to provide more information. Any questions or comments or anything?
Just a question for Daphne. It's the use is permitted, right? So this is just design review?
Yes.
Okay.
Any other questions or comments for Daphne or me or for the applicant?
Yeah, I've got one quick for Daphne. When it comes to the design review, are there standards for us to use to evaluate this, and particularly its relationship to the residential use adjacent?
The only like adjacent to residential uses we have in there is like for screening of parking. So that was noted in the staff report. It related to that. In terms of like aesthetics, I'm not too sure on what the commissioners can or cannot say. Usually, you know, it's more just like, yeah, like changing stuff, like they would like to see more windows or, you know, something to break up some like facade issues.
Yeah, I think that Daphne's right. The language that's in our zoning ordinance under design review, it's pretty minimal. You know, I don't know that it's going to give you too much direction in terms of what should be required, but there is some language in there, and the way that we have always administered design review is that the city does require four-sided architecture. We do require, you know, architectural elements to break up the building facades, and we typically do require windows. And I know, you know, this may be a model that they construct in many cities, but I'm sure that there are cities that they build in that have pretty strict design standards where they're willing to make some modifications to the building. And, you know, I do think it would be appropriate to make some enhancements. I mean, that's my own perspective based on what I've seen from other projects. And I think a really similar project that just went through design review did have some more architectural features. It was also an auto parts store, and it was on University Avenue.
Yep.
So Abby or Daphne, can we ask you to communicate to the applicant that if they are insisting on this design, could they give us an address somewhere in the state or metro area where they've built something similar, so at least we can look at a kind of Google Street View to kind of see what it would look like, or at least a photo, because we have the site plan, and then we have this kind of very disembodied axonometric view here, and it'd be nice to see how that connects to the neighboring properties. I mean, as you mentioned, our design review is pretty limited because it is a use permitted by right, but
If the commission members would like to see more about the design review standards, they are in section 10.101.
Yep.
And as Abby and Daphne noted, there is some language about breaking up building massing, and when there's a buffer of residential properties, how to treat parking, screening of rooftop mechanical equipment, exterior garbage, refuse containers, landscaping, etc. So there is some language in there to use as a guide. But I think Commissioner Paulson's suggestion of having examples of other projects in the area, I think that's excellent.
And if I could add to that.
Abby,
Gary Beekner.
Could you please keep track of who is raising hand? I don't see anybody raising hands here. We have to have an order. So I think when somebody wants to speak, please raise your hand. Either Abby or I will notice and let you speak. And please, some of you
mute Terry Buchner. Terry, I'm muting you right now because we can hear the background noise.
Please raise your hand when you want to speak. I don't see anyone here.
So Abby, this is Mike. To add to Kurt's comments. So if we're going to be asking O'Reilly's for some design concepts of where this particular design has been built elsewhere, to your very point, I guarantee you they have other design concepts that incorporate other architectural elements on some of these other facades, i.e. ribbon windows around the top, et cetera. And you might ask them for that as well, if they're willing to share that.
Thank you, Mike.
I'm in contact with the applicant, so I can discuss that.
Right.
Okay.
Thanks, Daphne.
So what I would be interested in knowing is that from this, you can't really tell that how it fits in the neighborhood there. So, the surrounding properties, and I don't know if there is there was in the details that how far away it is from those apartments. I couldn't really tell, or condos. I think those are condos. And from McDonald's, I can see what's over there now, but I could not tell, nor you can just by looking at it from here. So I would like to see all those details. So
Commissioner Bruce had his hand raised.
So Randy, go ahead.
Yeah, I guess Daphne or Abby, I think it would be, at least from my perspective, I'm a bit concerned about having, this 2 or 3 sides of this building having no openings at all.
Here.
And just being a pretty much unornamented box. I think that's a pretty brutal thing for the condominium owners to have to look at. So I would like to, I hope that O'Reilly would be flexible in terms of what they can produce here and try to get the best quality building we can get.
And I agree with Commissioner Bruce. So who is, Abby, could you find out where is that noise coming from?
The person who's on the phone with the telephone number ending in 0200, I'm going to mute you because we're hearing a lot of noise.
Thank you, Abby. Okay.
Commissioner Paulson has his hand raised.
And
I was just going to say that I just pulled up the street view of the O'Reilly Auto Parts at Mineral Point Road, and that has it's a slightly different context, but that has certainly all sorts of windows in the main entrance area. So it's a little unclear from the image in front of us of their elevation as to whether there'd be any windows on any other side of the building. So I think we'll wait until we get the more detailed renderings.
absolutely. It just looks like a box right now. Anyone else from the commission who might want to say anything? Add any other comments? Okay, so the motion is to defer. All those in favor of the motion say aye.
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 Anyone opposed? So the motion passes. It's past 7:10. So I'm going to open
My
the public.
bracelets for the necklace I was thinking about ordering.
Mirna, I'm going to have to mute you. We can hear you speaking.
Sorry.
Okay, so this is the first public hearing for the conditional use permit for Mocha Coffee Edition at Triton Auto Spa, Middleton 3517 Tribeca Drive. Anyone who wants to speak either for or against it?
Mocha
think
HQ
I'm
has
getting
their
there.
hand raised.
Hi,
Okay, please go ahead.
My name's
Yeah,
Greg.
I'm there. I think I'm there.
Hi,
Yeah, go ahead.
my name's Greg Lapointe. I'm the Chief Operating Officer for Mocha Coffee. I just wanted to introduce myself and let everybody know I'm here to answer any questions you might have.
Thank you, Greg. I appreciate that. Abby, do you see any hands raised?
No,
So this is the public hearing for the conditional use permit for Mocha Coffee Edition at the Triton Auto Spa at 3517 Tribeca Drive. Anyone who wants to speak for or against it? Okay. All right. If
Thank
there are no takers, anyone? Abby, do you see anyone raising hands? I don't see any.
no, I do not.
Okay, I'm going to close that part of the public hearing. And we're going to go to item number 2. This is the conditional use permit for Mocha Coffee Edition at Triton Auto Spa, Middleton 3517 Tribeca Drive. So need a motion to approve approval of the conditional use permit.
Actually, we have a 7:15 public hearing on the rezoning of the Chichester.
Yeah, well, let's go through this now and then we can.
Okay.
Back to this, so.
I would move to, this is Paulson, a move to approve the conditional use permit.
Schaefer seconds.
Okay. So the motion by Commissioner Paulson, second by Commissioner Schaefer. Any questions or comments? I have went through, looked at it very carefully, and it looks pretty good. And I have looked at the other places where the Mocha Coffee House is. They showed gave some of those examples, and it's very consistent. Yes, Kurt, you have any?
I was just
comments
going to
or-
say that if we need to, under Wisconsin's conditional use law, we may need to have findings on the record. So the finding would be that the architecture and circulation is consistent with the other uses in the B2 zone. We don't have specific standards in our ordinance for what the conditional use is, other than traffic and architecture. So I'm getting weird feedback. So
Could you please, whoever has the phone, or could you please mute it? It's really not good.
I'm
Would be
gonna-
appreciated. Thank
At
you.
this point, I'm just gonna go ahead, I think, and just mute everyone on the call who is not a commissioner. I know we try not to do that in case there is someone who wants to speak during a public hearing, but I'm gonna just go ahead and do that so it's not disrupting the meeting.
Okay, so it'd be
And
your,
yeah, it's just findings for the record that that the conditional use is consistent with the zoning and the traffic flow in the area.
okay. I guess, okay, so anything else? Anyone else? Abby, do you see any commissioner raising hands?
No more raised hands.
Okay. All right, the motion is to approve the conditional use permit for Mocha Coffee Edition at Triton Auto Spa, Middleton 3517 Tribeca Drive. All those in favor of the motion say aye.
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 Anyone opposed? Motion passes unanimously. We're going to go on to the public hearing number 2. So this is the rezoning portion of 2 lots from R2 to R1. So this is correctly noted in the public hearing, but it's not correctly noted on the agenda or at this item. So it is the change from R2 to R1. This is I'm Chidester, 1916 and 1920 Park Street. Anyone who wants to speak about this rezoning from R2 to R1, please raise your hands. Anyone, Abby?
No.
Anyone who wants to speak either for or against it, please raise your hands at this time. Anyone, Abby? I don't see anyone.
No.
Okay, I'm going to close that part of the public hearing, and we are going to go to item number 4. This is the,
Mayor,
yep,
item number 3 is the SIP modification.
yeah, I know.
Okay.
And I just wanted to say for the record that we did not have any written communication for that hearing either, for the
Okay.
rezoning. So the applicant may be on the call, but it's very straightforward. He's been working with his neighbors. So I just wanted to report that for the record as my staff report.
Okay. So item number 4 is rezoning portions of 2 lots from R2 to R1. 9 Chidester, 1916 and 1920 Park Street, formerly 70003 University Avenue. So need a motion to approve.
Ramsey moves to approve recommending to the Common Council, the ordinance amending city official map.
Okay,
Slavish will
second it. Oh, okay, second by Mark, so Mike Slavish. Okay, any questions or comments? It's all straightforward. Please raise your hand if you have any questions or comments. Okay, I don't see any. I want to make sure this is the rezoning from R2 to R1, and it's correctly noted in the public hearing part, but not on the agenda. All those in favor of the motion, rezoning portion of 2 lots from R2 to R1 and Chidester 1916 and 1920 Park Street, formerly 7003 University Avenue, say aye.
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 Anyone opposed? Okay, motion passes. We are on to item number 3. This is a specific implementation plan, SIP modification for design review, including signs for Mocha Coffee Edition and Triton Auto Spa at Triton Auto Spa, Middleton, 3517 Tribeca Drive. So the recommendation by the staff is approval of the minor SIP modification for the design review of the Mocha Coffee Shop building. Need a motion to approve.
Just really quickly, Mayor, there was
Mm.
one part of the request which our staff was not supportive of, and that was the proposal to place a Mocha Coffee Shop projecting sign on the Triton building.
Okay,
So this is not technically an off-premise sign because it's one parcel, but when we initially heard about this proposal to have a Mocha Coffee Shop, we did let the applicant know that we were concerned because we do not allow off-premise signage. We were concerned that the location wouldn't be very visible for a coffee shop. And it looks like this, in my opinion, is an attempt to make the coffee shop building more visible than it otherwise would be because of the location that has been chosen. But I think that this doesn't really meet the requirements of our sign code.
okay, all right. So we will exclude that. So Randy, you have your hand up. Thank you.
Yes, I just had a question for the applicant and or staff. I had made a comment a month or so ago when this was set for public hearing about trying to coordinate design and materials with the Triton Auto Spa building. And I was wondering if there'd been any thought given to that relative to colors or materials or architectural treatment.
I'll let the applicant respond to that because there was an email with a letter that was sent out on this topic today to the Plan Commission members.
Do we have the applicant to respond? Oh, there is a, okay, please go ahead, Mocha Coffee House.
Hi, yep, this is Greg Lapointe again. Yeah, we sure would appreciate consideration for the sign. For us, visibility is really extremely important for the viability of our business at any location. And when you come in off the highway or the belt line there, you can see the Triton building really well, but it's tough to see Mocha. It would be very, we really need that sign on that building if possible, please.
Okay, so anybody wants to respond, either the commissioner or the staff?
Can I ask, Mayor?
Okay.
The sign that Abby pointed out, that
Kurt
that
Paulson and then Mark Opitz. Yes. go
that
ahead.
document that you have open, was this in the packet? I don't recall seeing that view.
Yes,
Was.
this is the
Yeah.
packet. This is page
Yeah.
40.
Yeah, I
Oh,
have
okay.
seen it. Mhm.
I never opened the whole packet. I just click on each individual item and it's not there. Which direction does that sign that you're objecting to, Abby, face?
It faces north and I guess it's visible from north and south. So when you're driving along Tribeca Drive.
Okay.
And then there's one, so they're proposing a blade sign or a projecting sign both on the south elevation. So as you're heading north on Tribeca Drive, the south elevation, which would be visible for cars on the north and south, and then one on the west elevation, which I believe is the primary frontage of Triton as well.
And so I just want to make sure you're objecting to both or just one of them?
I don't think that having a sign for Mocha on the Triton building meets the intent
Okay.
of the sign code. I'm concerned that although it's not technically an off-premise sign, it kind of feels like an off-premise sign. And also the Triton building, I think I included, I hope I compiled their sign package into the packet, but when Triton was approved, the auto spa pretty much maximized what would be allowed under the ordinance in terms of signage. There were concerns at the time that Triton was getting their signs approved that they were requesting a lot. And so they kind of maxed out the capacity for the buildings, and now we're being asked to add another sign. And I do favor having the dog wash sign. So I think that that's okay because it is in keeping with the size and the design of the signs that were already approved on the Triton building. But I in my opinion, the Mocha coffee shop sign doesn't meet the intent of the city's sign code. And this is why we expressed concern about locating a Mocha coffee shop in this location initially with the applicant. We said, this isn't a very visible location. And the applicant assured us that it would be successful in this location. And now I feel like their request for this signage is trying to make the location more prime for the coffee shop purpose than it was.
So, Kurt,
So
are
we-
you done?
I was just going to say, we could always accept staff recommendation now and not approve the blade signs. And they could always come back later if it really becomes a, commercial viability thing. But I tend to agree with what Abby was saying is, we don't generally allow off-premise signs. So even though it's two uses on the same parcel, it's still an off-building sign.
Coupled with the
Okay.
fact that they've already maxed out the Triton building itself.
Excuse me,
So
please.
Right.
Kurt, you are done because next is
Yes.
Mark Opitz
Yes.
and then Mike Slavish. And please raise your hand if you want to speak. Mike Opitz and then Mike Slavish.
Thank you, Mayor. I just simply have a question for the record. How is Mr. Lapointe's name spelled? Is it with, I don't see you anywhere in the application materials. Is it an E at the end or not?
Noe, L-A capital P-O-I-N-T.
That's how I had it. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, Mike Slavish.
Yeah, my question, Abby, Mark, Daphne, I guess, just to clarify, so staff's objections to the signage is just the blade sign on the Triton building, correct? Are you supportive of the signage that was provided in kind of the standard Mocha configuration, the photographs that were sent, I think today as well? Supportive of that, but not the blade sign, is that correct? Just as clarification?
Yes, that's correct. We do need to get some more details about the signs on the Mocha building because it was just showing up on the rendering, but we didn't have the specific square footage and whether the sign was lit or any of those details we would normally require. So we were recommending approval just based on a rendering. And before we would issue the sign permit, we would need the specific square footages of the signs and whether or not it's lit.
Okay, thanks.
Okay, are you done, Mike?
I'm done.
Okay, next one is Jennifer Murray.
Yeah, I see on elevation 3 in this view that there is a Mocha sign on the west elevation. And my presumption is that the blade sign is actually just to the right of that. It would be sticking out toward me if I was looking at the west side of this building. Is that correct? Or is it south of this piece of the building?
Greg, would you answer it? Greg Lapointe?
I'm having trouble seeing that one, but I don't think the sign comes out past the building. I'm just thinking about our other properties.
Okay, thank you.
I think what Commissioner Murray was asking is when the blade sign is, if the blade sign were approved on the Triton building, would that be in line with the wall sign or the elevation sign that's proposed on the Mocha building?
Oh, in sight line, you mean?
Yes.
Yes, but it would be obviously a little bit higher and farther east, which would be more visible for us. I'd like to also just speak to us. I kind of feel like our partnership with Triton is a partnership, and we both bring viable business to each other's business, and it's kind of a campus, so it feels like we are on the same property. I know it was mentioned that it is viewed as off premise, but with us being in partnership, and this is a new model for both of us, but we can see this going into the future being very good for both companies. So it just feels like we would be viewed more as on premise. I realize we're taking up more space of the building at Triton, but I just think it makes both of our businesses stronger, and we'll be able to reach more of the customer base in that area. Thank you.
Jennifer, does that answer your questions?
Nope. What I'm wondering, maybe Abby or Mark, one of you can point to the plan there where the sign locations for Mocha are that are being proposed today that you know about.
Abby or Mark?
Oh, sorry. So there's one on the south elevation of Triton, which would be on the southeast corner. Oops, I'm sorry. It would be on the southwest corner of the building. Daphne, would you be able to go back to the drawings showing the signs there? Thank you. So yeah, the first one would be on the southwest corner of the Triton building right there. Thank you. And then the one on the west elevation is also on the southwest corner of the building.
Okay, it's just on the opposite side of the southwest corner, on the west side of it. Okay, so is it on this, in this picture right here on the screen where it says west elevation, is it actually on the right side of that then? I guess I'm getting a little mixed up. This west elevation is for Triton, and on page 38 of 70, that west elevation, where is that located on the building?
There's nothing in Middleton like that.
If we can hear somebody speaking that's not on the commission, could you please mute yourself?
Thank you. If you're not on the commission, please mute yourself, and I really appreciate it. Thank you, thank you, thank you.
So I received a text message from one of the applicants who would like to be able to show some photographs that might be helpful. Is Jake, Jake, are you on the call here?
Yep, I'm on the call. I'm right here.
Okay, Jake, if Daphne stops, can you share your screen?
Yeah, it may take a second just to pull up those photographs though. For clarification, I think Commissioner Murray, I think you're, the signage is on the Triton building, the southwest sign, southwest side of the Triton building. That's the projecting sign. The sign that you were looking at before was on the Mocha building, and that was just a flat channel letter sign that Abby had talked about that we don't have details for quite yet. But I'll try to pull
point
up
to where that location is, just to the portion of the building that's the Mocha building, just to help me out.
I think from the plans, it would just be on this like west elevation.
Okay.
I'm not sure if this parking spot is part of it, but I think it's on this, also the southwest corner, but on this building.
Thank you,
and then the
Daphne.
other sign would be over here.
Okay, thank you very much.
So Jennifer, you're done? Jennifer?
Yes, sorry, I couldn't unmute.
Okay.
Yes, I'm done, thank you.
Okay, so the next one is Randy Bruce.
Thank you. So this is, again, this is a question for Greg, having to do with just whether or not the architecture of the two buildings was looked at all in terms of colors or materials. You talk about this being a campus and you know, mutual uses. Is there anything that ties the Mocha building to the Triton building?
Well, the Triton building is mainly concrete, unfinished concrete, and that's our styles. We use a lot of unfinished concrete already, so our brand our brand continuity will actually blend very well with Triton's building. We're still picking out final colors, but we go with real grays and concrete and stone. So I think it blends really well with the Triton building.
I have those pictures, Abby, if you want me to share my screen. It's just pictures of other, like the standard Triton building design, if you guys want to see them.
Sure, yeah, please do.
Yeah, go ahead, Jake.
Right here. So, and Greg can speak to this, but this is kind of from what I've gathered from Greg and Mocha is the standard brand recognition design that they go for. So this would be really, really similar to the building that's going to be going on the Triton site. It's their standard design, and that's what they're kind of shooting for here.
And these are
You guys
the
can see this,
images
correct?
that were emailed today, correct?
Yeah, the same ones.
So Jake and Greg, there's some variety even amongst these buildings here in terms of color and details. I would just, I guess I would ask that there'd be some thought given to that, so that this building ties in with the Triton building the best we can. I'm not sure at what point the colors and will get selected, but I'm not sure if we're even approving that at this point in time.
Come over here if you want. We're talking about Mocha coffee.
So Randy, Randy has a great point, and anybody, either Greg or Jake wants to respond. I think it is an excellent idea that it is the campus and the colors should sort of match. And you can see here, there are 4 different buildings and 4 different colors. So.
Yep, our latest, we will definitely take that. We do want to make our building look like it's part of the Triton property or campus. And so we'll definitely take that when we.
Well, okay, this is
our final design.
This is Terrence Wall, Mayor.
Well, I know, but it's for the commissioners. So are you with
well,
the,
I'm trying to answer the question.
Are you with one of these developers here? Are you with this Triton thing then?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
All right. Okay.
So
Terrence,
these four,
then Kurt Paulson. Okay, Terrence. Yes. Go ahead, please.
To answer Randy's question, these 4 photos are, if you go look at these buildings, they're almost exactly similar. The photographs are, and the lighting and the shading is what's causing a slight difference in the hint, the tone and the color. They're actually almost impossible for you to tell the difference when you go drive by them in person. The building itself, okay, will be similar in color to the Triton building. They're both an earth, kind of a very light tan earth tone. Okay, so the building, the square building, all right. Then the Mocha, that piece there hanging with the Mocha sign, that metal piece hanging off the corner, and the arched horizontal arch with the drive-through coffee sign on it. Those have a black or almost charcoal color that will match the dark charcoal of the corner of the Triton building. The top of the roof there, I don't want to call that a parapet, but Randy, I don't know what that's called, that little black line at the top edge, leading edge of the roof, that will also be the dark charcoal that will tie in with the dark charcoal of the corner of the Triton building. So the building colors tie in exactly with the Triton building, but obviously in fact, this charcoal corner piece of this building, just by coincidence, also ties in with the Triton building, because we have a corner of our building that is just like that, except it goes down the ground. That's a charcoal color just on the southwest corner of our building. And then the Mocha signage is the only thing different here. So also the aluminum window frames are the same as ours. So the materials and the colors are exactly the same as Triton's. The only thing different here is the signage. And we're just trying to show you that they have a brand image. And again, these photos aren't of a good, you can tell one is taken late in the evening, you can see before the sun's going down, another is shadowed. But these are all similar, almost the same exactly buildings. They're just different lighting on the photographs. So they are, you won't be able to get this building any closer to the Triton building. It is exactly the same for the building box. It is exactly the dark charcoal accent color. So it is precisely the same, including the window frames. So I just wanted to highlight that. Thank you.
Thank you, Terrence.
Thank you, Terrence. I appreciate that. And so you more or less agree with Randy. So Randy, you have further to say before I ask Kurt Paulson will be the next. Okay, go ahead, Randy.
No, I think if what Terrence says is correct, I think that's just exactly what I was hoping would happen. We'd have some continuity of materials and colors.
Okay, so okay, Kurt.
Oh, I'm good if Randy's good.
Okay.
I think it already answered my question.
Okay, anyone else? Okay, Jennifer.
Yeah, I think I agree with Abby on the blade sign. I think that sign on the southwest main building is too many signs for that corner. That isn't the Mocha building. The Mocha building is across the parking lot. And that sign package, we see one sign on the west elevation. However, what you've got on the screen right now, page 2 of 2, is showing several other signs that may be proposed as part of that sign package. So I think I'd like to move approval of the minor SIP modification without the blade sign.
Okay, and need a second.
This is Paulson. I'll second that.
Okay, second by Kurt Paulson. And so any further question or comments? So any further question or comments? I can see there could be one of the options later. Abby had 2 points. One is that the blade sign, the other was also that if you were to prove that one, that the total area allotted to the signs will exceed what we normally have. So if they wanted to change any of the other signs and make that space available for the signs, I guess we could consider that. Is that something which could be done later, or what is?
Sure. Yeah, they could come back with another request for an SIP modification in the future if they'd like to do that. Terrence Wall has his hand raised, Mayor.
Okay, Terrence, go ahead.
Yeah, I just had a question for our future. If you don't, let's say you don't approve the blade sign, which I understand where you're coming from, would we be able to put the Mocha name on our monument, our ground monument sign? And if the answer is possibly, then we would have a drawing done. We can have a drawing done to submit that with the signage at the next submittal.
Yeah, I think that would be like a directory sign, similar to what we would see for a strip mall center. And I think that would be entirely appropriate to submit that as an SIP modification.
So does that
Mark Opitz, isn't that's usually called a multi-tenant sign, right? We have those all the time.
Yeah, I think I would be very supportive of that request as well. That's definitely an appropriate way to handle this matter.
Okay, so do we want to approve this as it is, as the motion is made, or do we want to see that if they want to bring about any other changes and then approve it? Is there a time pressure here, or what is the issue? And this is for Greg or anyone else, to the developer to answer. Do you want to complete your package and bring it here, or do you want the approval as the motion is made now?
So yes, we'd prefer approval because we've got to have this thing built and open at the same time that Triton is open. I mean, we can't really be building this after Triton's open.
Okay, all right. And Mark, you have a hand up? Mark Opitz?
Thank you, Mayor. I was just going to offer a suggestion for the makers of the motion. The way I recorded the motion is to approve the building design and sign package with the exception of the blade sign as a minor SIP modification, comma, with staff approval. What I'm offering as a suggestion is that you could say staff approval of a modification to the monument sign. And that way we just don't have to deal with this again at the commission level.
I accept that, yep.
I mean, I'm not making that, I'm just offering that as a suggestion.
Good idea.
And sure, that'll be the way it reads.
And Mark, that's with the monument sign size, so the height and the width not changing, but them reconfiguring the design so that they could add Mocha.
That was, yeah, that's the intent.
Does that sound okay to you, Abby?
Yes, that sounds great.
Okay, so, all right, so the motion by Commissioner Jennifer and second by Commissioner Father Mike Slavish or Randy? Kurt Paulson. Okay, so it's okay with both of you too?
Yep.
Okay. Any further questions or comments? Okay, all those in favor of the motion say aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Okay, so the motion passed unanimously. Okay, so Abby, you want to go to number 6 or should we go ahead and start with number 5?
Let's go with number 5.
Okay, all right, so you want to start?
Sure. Yes, this is, we've received an application for concept review for a redevelopment of the Captain Bill's restaurant site, excuse me. And this is a proposal for a 7-story multifamily housing building. At the request of the city, the applicant held an initial neighborhood meeting that was primarily attended by the nearby Century Harbor condominium owners, but was also attended by the Middleton Beach Road Neighborhood Association president and also a representative of the boathouses nearby. We heard a lot of concerns raised during that initial neighborhood meeting, and I've included a really brief summary of those concerns in your packet. For everyone that's attending, tonight is just an initial concept review meeting. And concept review is essentially an opportunity for the developer to get some initial feedback on a project from the Plan Commission prior to submitting an application for rezoning to a new Planned Development District or PDD. And that is when more detailed plans are prepared at the submittal for a new PDD. Concept review is non-binding on the city. And the reason that I said a new PDD is because this site is actually already zoned Planned Development District. I think that this is the first PDD in the city of Middleton. It was rezoned in 1971. And when, if this project proceeds and the applicant submits, I will include the original PDD document in the next packet because it's pretty interesting. It was written to accommodate a high-rise office building, which became the Harbor Wellness Center, a cluster group housing site, which of course now is the Century Harbor condominiums nearby.
Yeah, I'm listening to my meeting. They're just doing it now, so I'm just. All right.
Could you
Okay,
please
thanks.
mute yourself?
Bye-bye.
Could you please mute yourself? Thank you. Go ahead, Abby.
It also included a restaurant, which of course is the Captain Bill's site, and a service station, which was a mobile gas station that of course is no longer on the property across Lake Street. The way that this PDD is written, this came up earlier because I got a question from somebody in the neighborhood asking what else could be built under the current zoning. And so in a traditional zoning district, there would be a number of different types of uses that would be permitted. But unfortunately, and in consultation with Mark as zoning administrator, the way that this PDD is written, it is so specific to just a restaurant that is about 4,000 square feet and that has about 100 seats, that a rezoning is going to be required no matter what happens to this property, unless a new restaurant comes in that has about 100 seats and is about 4,000 square feet. And that's just the nature of a PDD zoning, that it can sometimes get really specific for a site. So that's all I have for you. The developer, Tim Carey of T5 Real Estate, is here along with his architect, Dwayne Johnson of Knothi and Bruce. And they would like to make a presentation, but really quick before they go into their presentation, Commissioner Bruce would like to just speak really quickly.
Commissioner Bruce, I can see you want to recuse yourself, right? Okay, go ahead, please.
Yes, thank you. Yes, I just wanted to recuse myself from this item.
Okay, thank you. Okay, Tim Carey and the architect.
Daphne, do you have their presentation or did you want them? I think Daphne has it available.
Okay.
Pull it up.
So Daphne, you want to handle it then?
I have a point of order.
What are you doing, speaking?
Who is this?
I listening to the previous presentations, you solicited input from others. Is this concept review, is the process for concept reviews prevent you from soliciting input?
There were two noticed public hearings on the agenda, and I mentioned that at the very beginning of the meeting. that this agenda included 2 public hearings, which the city provided an official notice for, but this item does not have a public hearing associated with it.
Does that answer your question, sir?
Yes, thank you.
Okay, thank you. Okay, Tim Carey.
Thank you, Mayor. Thank you, Commissioners. Again, my name is Tim Carey. I'm principal of a Middleton-based real estate development and investment company by the name of T5 Real Estate. Our portfolio consists of about 2 million square feet of space, including about 1,100 apartment units, including the 240-unit Market West project that we built in Greenway Station, which was completed in 2018. Prior to forming T5, I was the president of Greenway Properties, which owned and developed Greenway Center in Middleton. I was raised in Middleton. I worked as a waiter at the old Hatch Cover restaurant before it was sold to Captain Bill's. My 2 kids went through the Middleton school system. So needless to say, Middleton is near and dear to my heart, and thus one of the reasons why I'm excited about this project. I've been interested in this site for the past 3 years or so. I was recently presented with the opportunity by the von Rutenberg family, which is the owner of Captain Bill's. We now have the property under contract and have been working with the architects and engineers to develop a plan that we are excited to share with you tonight. As Abby mentioned, we shared this same concept with the Century Harbor condominium community. And Abby, I'd like to clarify, I didn't view that as a formal neighborhood meeting, but instead an informational meeting specific to Century Harbor condominium. I know that we are asked, and we certainly will oblige to have other official neighborhood meetings, but I got some backlash this past week that we didn't include others. And the intent candidly was to have that discussion with the residents of the condominium association. We weren't intentionally excluding others, but we felt that it was important to have dialogue with them. So we're interested in this site for a variety of reasons. The strong Middleton housing market obviously is a big one. The attractive neighborhood and proximity to the lake, the accessibility to employment, retail, restaurant, and services. But we also recognize what this development could do for the city in terms of converting a vacant and defunct restaurant site into a high-quality housing project and contributing to the ongoing redevelopment and improvement efforts underway on the Allen Boulevard corridor. So with that quick intro in mind, I'd like to introduce you to Dwayne Johnson. Dwayne is an architect and partner at Kanothi Bruce, and we'll walk you through the preliminary concept design. So thank you.
Okay, Dwayne, go ahead. Dwayne Johnson.
Thank you. As you know, tonight we're here to introduce and receive concept input for the redevelopment located at 2701 Century Harbor Road. It's right on the corner of Lake Street and Century Harbor Road, just to the south of Century Avenue. The site is approximately 1.4 acres and, as mentioned, was most recently home to the now vacant Captain Bill's restaurant. It includes a large paved parking area and a single-story building. The site, along with some of the surrounding sites, as Abby had mentioned, is zoned PDD. As Tim had mentioned, we feel the site is ready for redevelopment and that it is a great infill site that can help address the housing needs in Dane County and place residents close to nearby restaurants, shops, and parks. This is a screenshot from the recently adopted comprehensive plan showing future land uses. We are the site at the end of the arrow that is within an area designated as Avenue Mixed Use. Down at the bottom, there is also some of the definitions for Avenue Mixed Use, which in part says that these are generally larger and more intensive than business in the mixed use category. Next slide, please. The proposed redevelopment would involve the removal of the existing building and the construction of a new 7-story, 107-unit residential building with 141 parking stalls. The 7-story portion is shown here in teal, running parallel to Lake Street. We have intentionally placed the larger portion in this area to help create more space between the condos to the north and the 7-story portion of the building. The orange portion is an enclosed single-story parking area, which extends partially under the main building and encloses 52 parking stalls. These are accessed off of Century Harbor Road. There are 81 additional stalls underneath this, and those are accessed from Lake Street. And our main apartment lobby would be entered off the south, just south of the 10 surface parking stalls there. The site does slope about 10 feet from south to north, which is how we're able to get 2 levels of parking, about 1 above and below, without doing a lot of ramping. I would like to mention too, we are starting to engage our civil engineers and look at stormwater facilities for the site. The site has some real infiltration challenges. There's rock really close to the surface. But we do feel that it's a good fit for green roof within that orange single story area. And this will help treat and reduce and slow down stormwater runoff. If we could go back 1 slide, Abby. This is the basement parking. It's 81 stalls. And as I had said, it's entered off of Lake Street to the right side of Lake Street there. This would also house our trash and mechanicals and bike storage. Next slide. This is the first story of the project. The main lobby can be seen to the left there. And then the Lake Street side would have apartment units facing Lake Street. And then you can see the 51 stalls behind that, which take up a portion of the building above. The dashed line is the building above. Next slide, please. The 2nd through 6th floor, which is the lower plan here, would all be stacked. This would be a mix of different unit sizes. All of them would have balconies. The ones towards Lake Street would be angled to take advantage of the lake views. And this leaves as many or as few as possible to the north, which would be facing the condos. The 7th story, which is above here, also incorporates our community room and a step back area. The community room is to the right with a rooftop terrace on that corner. Next slide, please. This is a first look at the elevation. The elevations incorporate 3 distinct masses on the Lake Street view, which is shown here. This helps break up the building and creates a nice rhythm to the facade. We are using high quality and durable materials. The building is planned to be a lighter cast stone material along the base of the building and a darker colored brick and metal panel window areas. The metal panel is also used on the top story, which is set back slightly, and caps along the edges as well. And then we cap the roof with an overhanging roof feature. The remaining elevations would be very similar to this. We haven't gotten quite to that point yet. We could go to the next slide. We haven't had a chance to render the building yet, but this kind of shows the general mass of the building. We're starting to study the mass, I guess. This is a view taken further down Lake Street towards the boat launch. Next slide. And this one is actually viewed from the harbor athletic parking lot, looking towards across Lake Street. Next slide. And this is closer to the condos and viewed down Century Harbor Road, looking south. Next slide. We've also started to look at the shadow studies for the building and how it would impact the neighbors. The upper band of studies shows the spring equinox at 3 different times, a morning shot at noon, and then at 4 o'clock in the evening. And the bottom is the summer equinox, so June 21st. You can see that our shadows really don't cross our property line really at all for this time of the year. Next slide. And this shows the fall and winter. Again, the fall is going to be the exact same as the spring, and generally shadows really aren't cast on the buildings to the south other than in the late evening or towards sunset. And then the winter, obviously, we're all suffering from a lack of sunlight, and generally, just after sunrise, there'd be really long shadows. At noon, they'd be pretty well contained to within our property. And then in the evening, again, they get really long and are off to the east side. Thank you for your time. We definitely appreciate your input and look forward to that input and any questions.
Mayor, you're on mute.
So I'm going to get started, and if you like to speak, please raise your hand, and I will acknowledge Kurt will be the first one, but I'm going to start first. So to begin with, I want to say thank you to Tim and also Dwayne and the others that for holding the neighborhood information meeting. It wasn't, as you said, neighborhood meeting, but the information with the condo folks, because that is the first thing I always ask, and it was good that you got started. Of course, there will be.
There was no neighborhood meeting. We were not heard. We were not given notice. There was no neighborhood meeting.
Okay, that will happen.
He acknowledged he talked to the board. No one gave us notice of it other than of this hearing. This is the public hearing.
Okay.
You're telling us we can't talk.
No, there will be there will be a neighborhood meeting as the developer has promised. And then there will be, if this project goes forward, then there will be also a public hearing. Everybody would be given a chance to speak. Thank you. So I will start with the concerns. As I said earlier, I have gone to the site. I spent about a half hour looking around all other buildings in the area, and I even tried to make a left turn and going straight from Lake Street onto going west, and also try to make a left turn onto Allen Boulevard. And I also look at the Century, or that small street, which is right next to, I think, Century Harbor Road. So I looked at that one as well. And then I talked to some of the people who live in those condos. So one of the things which I hope Tim will answer at some stage is that this will be the tallest building east of the belt line. So only building which probably is taller is the our trade center, or the building in that shopping mall there. I don't know if Aspen Common is also 7-story, but so those are the only two buildings. This will be this proposed building east of the belt line will be the tallest. So that's one of the issues which has been raised over and over, and I'm quite would be interested to hear about it. So the second part is the traffic. And so when I have gone to Harbor or just to walk around the neighborhood, and I have tried to make a left turn from Lake onto Allen Boulevard, and I didn't find it very easy. It was pretty challenging. And of course, you can make a right turn. That's not really a big problem. But when I saw the Century Harbor Road, which is owned by 3 different groups, the condos, they own 25%, and this restaurant, the both side, they own 25%. And then the Harbor Athletic Club, they own 50%. I don't know how the use is, how this particular road is used. It is private, or how it will be used in the future. And so the traffic would be a huge issue here. And then, of course, all the commissioners have gotten that that email from the president of the Boat House Association. The first time I actually walked around those boat homes, and There are quite a few of them. So I think they're very narrow and small, but there are quite a few of them. And I looked at the landmark too, and they started in 1897. So they've been there over nearly 123 to 124 years. So during the boating season, one would think that the traffic will become more of a issue. Those people who want to go boating and then this building there. So and of course you are already trying to address the stormwater, and it will go to the Stormwater Resources Commission as well, and that would be a problem. Right now, when I looked at this, all the surface area there is really covered. I don't know if there's a whole lot of area where there is a grass. And that will be another thing, that when you have that many people there, would there be any green area? I think people love grass, and that will be a good thing. And this will be moving in a neighborhood, and which is mostly 2-story, but that hospital, that's a 3-story building, but it looks, I couldn't really find out how tall that is. So, but it will be, I would be certainly interested in knowing that how tall that hospital building is. So when somebody is moving in neighborhood, it will be a question for Tim Carey, that what do you bring for the neighbor there in terms of, I would imagine they would also see some sort of benefit. And my concerns for any new development, even though majority of the apartments here will be either, the single, I think single, they will be smaller, but there are 1-bedroom or 1-bedroom with some additions, and then there are, I think 24 or certain number, there are 2 bedrooms, there are a few 3 bedrooms. One would expect there will be children, or even if they're grandparents, their children will be visiting. I'm always interested that 2 things. One is that when the kids are there, what is there for them to play, whether it's a playground structure or whatever. Those are finer details which will come. And then our library is downtown. Would there be, I'm studying and looking into it, that would there be some small library or digital thing there for the everybody living there, as well as if there are children. Those are 2 things which are very close to my heart, some playground for the children, for the next generation. So there are other things which I have here as well. I'm going to open to if Tim wants to answer some of those questions, otherwise I'm going to open to the rest of the commissioners to listen to their points there. But it is a huge and humongous building for this site, and the tallest east of the belt line. Any of the commissioners who may want to speak, or Tim, do you want to answer any of these? Or
yeah, I would like to address a few of those comments, Mayor.
Okay,
first of all,
the
comprehensive plan, that has been approved by Plan Commission calls for high density in this very specific location. And so I don't think what we're proposing is outside of what was already contemplated by the Plan Commission. So I respect your comment that it's a large building, but that is what was contemplated in the comprehensive plan. Relative to the traffic, I understand that we would be required to have a traffic study completed. We're more than happy to do that. We have done enough multifamily to know that candidly multifamily doesn't generate the same kind of traffic demands as commercial space does, because it very often is spread out much more throughout the day than a peak early morning and a peak late afternoon. So yes, we will address traffic. We realize that is a concern, and a traffic study has to be completed. Relative to green space, if you look carefully at the plan, we're really not taking much more green space than exists currently. It's a very large parking lot with a small building on it, and next to that, very little green space. We will create actually more green space by having the green roof over a portion of the orange area that you're seeing on the screen. So in essence, we're actually increasing green space, not decreasing the green space. Relative to a playground structure in a library, that you're right, that is not currently contemplated in the plan, and we can give that consideration.
Okay, thank you. We did pass the comprehensive plan only recently, and I agree with you, but I don't know if it specifies that we were envisioning 7-story building here. And I know that many years ago, I asked Abby it was for the heritage housing came. There was one proposal to have a 7-story building where the Harbor Athletic Club is now, and moving the Harbor Athletic Club where the Century Food Store was. And of course, there are other structures there now. So, and I don't know, and according to Abby, I didn't really go through many of the city committees. There's no record of it at least. And so I don't really know. There was one proposal well over 10 years ago, and it didn't move forward for whatever reason. So I wonder, maybe Abby would know that this area was always in TIF. So if this project is becoming feasible because of our plan to put this area in TIF, would this be possible to have a 7-story building? Tim, this is for you without TIF?
I don't know yet. I can't speak to that, Mayor. I appreciate that question, and I don't know yet.
Okay, thank you. All right, so Kurt's hand is up. Kurt, you go first, and anyone else who wants to speak, please raise your hands.
And
Commissioners only. Yes.
As usual, I have about 17 questions. So if I'm droning on too long, someone can just interrupt me. I'll start with questions about traffic and circulation. And I'll ask them one at a time. If I read the site plan correctly, ingress into the building there's only one point off of Lake Street, and is that an in and out garage to go under the building?
There are 2 access points, Kurt. One is off of Lake Street that is in and out, and one is off of Century Harbor that is also in and out.
And okay, and the question about Century Harbor is that is a private road, and I don't know how that would work in terms of access. And I know that you can exit north onto Century off of Century Harbor, but you can't do a left turn. Do you have an access easement, or who owns that road?
The restaurant owns a portion of it, the harbor owns a portion, and the condominium project owns a portion as well. And it should be noted that the condominium project, is using the entire road. Their residents are using Century Harbor Road to access out to Lake Street, just as our residents would be.
Okay.
Yeah, to answer your question, Kurt, it's 25, 50. Harbor owns 50%, and the condos own 25%, and this restaurant owns 25%. And according to my information so far, as maybe Tim said too, mostly it was used by those condos.
I'm assuming as we go forward that he would have to secure all the appropriate easements on that road. And the question, which I don't know, is whether the Public Works Department or committee would be okay with an apartment building that one of the ingress egress points is onto a private road. I just don't know. So that's just something to flag for further review. And of course, obviously there will be a traffic impact study, and turning left onto Allen Boulevard is crazy almost any time of the day, certainly not at prime hours. Can you, if I read the site plan correctly, the current parking lot is about 15 feet lower in elevation than the condos just to the north here. Can your architect confirm if that's correct?
We are definitely substantially lower. A lot of this grading information is GIS information, so I'm not banking on it being perfectly accurate, but I do know we'll be substantially lower than the condos to the north. I would guess it's more in the 10 to 12 foot range.
So approximately 1 foot of the, yeah. I think I know the answer to this. I just want to clarify. One of the emails we got from the Beach House Association or the Boathouse Association suggested access off of Middleton Beach Road, and that's a dead end. That bulb cul-de-sac on the south portion of this picture. There's no intention whatsoever to connect that through to Lake Street. Is that correct?
No, Kurt, there has never been any intention to connect that, and I'm not sure where that rumor is generated.
Okay. Okay. I would imagine the people on Middleton Beach Road are convinced of that as well. The architecture has no step backs other than the 7th floor. Is that correct?
Correct.
And so I guess just as a comment, I'm really concerned about the height, given what's around here. And so I guess to Tim, a question is how would this affect the project economics if it was a 4-story building and perhaps, I know it's a single loaded apartment building and you can't do it really fit an L shape or anything else on the parcel. But if you had to go down to 4 stories, if you could help us understand how that would affect the project viability and the number of units that would reduce. Because in our comprehensive plan, we call it avenue mixed use, and some of the other land use categories have kind of height guidelines, and this one does not. But everything else that we're imagining, I think, in avenue mixed use is probably around 4 stories, or depending on proximity to other land use categories, would even require a step back provision.
Well, Kurt, I guess I would challenge that 4-story threshold. I'm not sure who set the threshold and why it was set at 4 stories. So yes, we're certainly looking to have more than 4 stories in this building. The economics get considerably out of whack, candidly, to be less than scientific, given the very expensive cost of the site and the very expensive cost of the subsurface issues that we're dealing with. We have very poor soils along the south end of that site. We've had soil borings done already, and we will be doing or need to do very expensive columns or piers. And obviously amortizing those costs over a few more units makes a very significant difference.
And just the final question, if Daphne could move up, or whoever's running the PowerPoint, to the first slide, the kind of regional context map there. If you do go forward with the rezoning request, I think what would be helpful to the commission and to the citizens is if you could do a view shed analysis from kind of that T of Middleton Beach Road, just down a little bit, whoever's running the right about there. And then certainly a view shed analysis from within the Century Harbor condominium so that they could see, as you get the building volume, Dwayne, so that people could see what it's going to look like. Given the slope of the site, I think, that's the question, is whether the 7 stories at grade will appear as 7 stories, given that you're down 15 feet.
Sure.
That's it.
Okay, other commissioners who may want to speak at this time? Any other commissioners? So, okay, John Schaefer. John?
Yeah, I just, I understand the concept, and Mr. Curry, I heard you talking about, the density, planned density. There's nothing also that says 7 stories is the minimum for planned density, and we're right on the edge of a neighborhood. So I understand your cost issues and your concerns, but I'm very concerned about the height in relationship to everything around it. If this is in the middle of the parking lot across the street in the middle of the shopping center, it might be very different, but it's surrounded on at least 2 sides by homes. So I'm concerned about the height. I'm not saying it has to be 4, but I agree with Kurt. I'd like to see how 7 stories fits to where the actual height and rise of those locations, and see what that that goes about. Also the traffic. I've tried to come out of that road. I sometimes go to the liquor store there, and it's a nightmare coming out of there. And so clearly traffic is the other concern. I think I'm a little less concerned about parks because there's a big park about 2 blocks down the street. But it's really, for me, it's a height issue is the thing. In terms of also green space, you mentioned that you're not really taking away green space, but you're adding a bunch of people. So what was there before was not ideal, but you also didn't have the density of the people. And so I'm still concerned a little bit about that. So that's all.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you, John. Anyone else? Any of the other commissioners? Okay.
3 hands.
Mike Slavish, then Elder Ramsey, Mike Slavish.
Yeah, thanks, Mayor. My question, I guess, to continue on with some of the concerns about kind of the traffic impact here. I have not spent much time on Lake Street, in the summertime. And Tim, maybe you could kind of expand on, so people that launch their boats there, do they park their boats and or boat trailers there on Lake Street? I mean, how does that work? Or where do those that launch their boats park their vehicles and their trailers currently?
My understanding is that there is boat trailer parking along Lake Street, and then
Okay.
perhaps they overflow park into the Harbor Athletic Club parking lot there. I don't know that for certain.
Yeah, so from a developer standpoint, any concerns about, that being relatively congested, during those peak periods in the, during the boating season, right in front of whatever, you would build there?
Sure, that's not ideal for the first floor units along Lake Street during those peak hours, on the weekends in the summer.
Okay. Those are my
Mike, are you
questions.
done? Sorry, go ahead. More questions, Mike?
Nope, that's it.
Okay, so the next one is Elder Dan Ramsey, and then Jennifer Murray.
My questions, I have some of the same concerns with heights and as some of the other commissioners have. But my question is kind of to piggyback on what Mike said. This is Middleton's one and only boat launch that's Middleton. It's further up the street. You have Marshall Park and that's Madison. But this is Middleton's only public access to the lake. So I share Mike's concern with the amount of traffic that's going to. I've been there in the summer when people are launching boats and you have a busy Saturday, a nice Sunday afternoon, and that gets packed down there. And I would be concerned that one of my concerns would be that that would remain open as I said, that's one of our only access points is our only public access point. So that concerns me too.
Yeah. That's a good point. Thank you. I wonder if the current capacity of that boat launch is limited to the amount of street parking that exists on Lake Street, which candidly probably limits.
Please mute yourself, whoever. Thank you. Yes, go ahead, Elder Ramsey.
No, I was done. I think there was a response, but I couldn't hear it through the echo.
And
Dan,
Tim, could you please repeat it?
Sure, Dan, I agree with you that boat traffic is intense there on weekends. My question is, to what extent is the number of boat launches on a weekend limited to the amount of street parking that is available? At Marshall Park up the street, there is a significant lot with trailer parking. We're here. I have to think that after, I don't know, I haven't done the measurements, but say 8 or 10 or 12 cars with trailers behind them will fill up Lake Street. And I'm not sure what you do beyond that from a capacity perspective. So I think the boat launch may be restricted by available boat parking or trailer parking that will curtail that traffic more than maybe we think it does.
Elder Ramsey, you have any follow-up questions?
No, no follow-up. Go ahead.
Okay, thank you. The next one is Commissioner Jennifer Murray.
Yeah, thank you, Mayor. I was looking through the comprehensive plan to understand how the avenue mixed use concept fits with this building, and I think in my mind it's a pretty good match. The idea of the height being too high is, it's hard to understand that without seeing things like have been pointed out before, view sheds and the slope of the property, looking at the context. So I think some of those things, if you include them, would be helpful for everybody to understand. The other piece of this that is positive is it's adding it's adding housing to the Century Avenue corridor, which is one of the things in our long range plan that we talked about, and some activity there. The one part of the design I don't like is that it looks very monotonous, and I guess because it's 7 stories, it seems a little intimidating, and I don't know how else to say it but that. I think it could be a very nice project. I think the height might be something that you could look at in some other ways to, in terms of setbacks and things like that, to identify if those are some possibilities. And so I just think that might be, some of the opportunities you could take a look at as well. And I'm sure you thought of some of those too. The traffic, yes, that whole area of the city has some issues with the way that the circulation is, in particular right there as it goes out to Allen. I am not sure a development of this size will really have huge impacts on that, but I am glad to see there'll be a traffic impact analysis based on the proposal if you do it. So I'm not as concerned about that, although the access to the lake in that public space, good point on that. So I don't know. I guess my big comment on it is looking at maybe some ways to soften the design. I like Kurt's comment about, the slope of the property and understanding what that height really looks like. And if there's ways to understand that and make the community understand that, that might be helpful. So those are my comments.
Okay. Thank you, Jennifer. Any of the other commissioners who may have any comments at this time? Kurt Paulson?
Yeah, just some follow-up questions for Tim. When I was looking as you were talking on Street View again, and the tallest building in the area is the Heritage Senior Living, which is 4 stories. And in other Avenue mixed use, the Krupp building that on University Avenue, both in the Madison and the Middleton side, to kind of fit in with our Avenue mixed use, is also 4 stories. And those are your kind of standard wood frame apartment building. I just wonder, I know you haven't done the detailed engineering, but if you go up to 7 stories, you have to have steel and concrete, obviously, under the state building code. And that just adds more weight for the pilings. Is it feasible to do a more just 4-story wood frame, even without underground parking, and almost deck the parking in the parking lot of the existing building, just as a way to kind of fit more within the character of the neighborhood? I'm sure you've looked at that, but I think people would want to know why the 7 stories is absolutely necessary on this site.
Tim, you want to respond or just do some other time? So, or just consider it as input. So,
No,
yeah, I drove. Okay.
I'd simply respond by saying, Kurt, I totally appreciate and respect that question and comment. And I don't know enough from the engineering side as to how feasible that is. I do know that if we plop a parking structure next to the building, and that structure doesn't go below ground, you either have, you know, a bunch of surface stalls which are not very marketable, or you have that first floor that looks out onto a parking ramp. And so that's not terribly feasible. So I think a building shorter than 7 stories would still need parking underneath the structure no matter what. I just think that's what the market expects.
Yeah, that's a fair point.
Thank you, Tim. Any of the other commissioners who may want to speak? Abby is going to check out the building height of the hospital building there. It's I don't know how tall it is, but it will be good to know.
Yes.
I did drive
No,
around.
I can find out the exact height from the plans. I know it's permitted to be taller than what was constructed. The zoning allows it to be taller than what was constructed.
Mhm. Yeah, I did drive around the city, and I guess, you know, Heritage Housing is a 4-story there. And I don't really know on the west side of the Beltline, yes, but on this side, no. So, well, I guess we were to provide the input. I guess is that there's plenty of feedback now.
Mayor, if that was a question, I'd answer it by saying yes. That was plenty of feedback, both from the commission and what we received last week from the condo association. Again, our objective is to do just this, is to understand people's opinions, people's feelings, people's objectives, and try to come up with a plan that both accomplishes objectives and works economically. So I thank everybody for their time, and we will be back in touch with the planning department with future comments, and obviously be back to all of you with future plans.
Wonderful. Thank you, Tim, and thank you, Dwayne.
Thank you.
Thank you for everybody's input. Okay, thank you, everybody. So we are on to item number 6. That is the request for proposal for University Avenue corridor plan. So Abby, you're going to take it, or who is going to take it?
Daphne.
It's pretty straightforward. Daphne.
Yeah,
Alright.
so thank you, Mayor. This is a RFP for the University Avenue corridor plan. Kurt sent in some suggested changes, which I've marked here for the plan commissioners to see. So he just added some language, but other than that, everything was presented in the packet.
Okay, so
Mayor?
yes, Kurt. Go
Yeah, so
ahead.
just the changes I suggested were to really connect this corridor plan to our recently adopted comprehensive plan, focus on economic development, and then to highlight out, as you see in the last sentence here, that really transportation is an issue in the corridor, as is access management and parking. So maybe I get extra credit points from Jen and the DOT by using the term access management. But for a large arterial like that, we really need to think about access management.
So now, Abby, this is a question for you. I still had a copy of that build plan. And so what are you expecting? You know, I can see that you would like to see changing the pattern of land uses, density or development, transportation options, and design standards for the corridor. So I didn't read that build plan. I had a copy of it here. So what is that which adds to that plan?
That plan was never adopted by the city, and it's pretty outdated now, even if it had been. And so some of the changes that Kurt suggested were actually removing the references to the build plan, which I support, because I just think there's not really any sense in referring to a plan that not only is 12 years outdated, but also was never even approved by the city. I know my understanding of why that plan wasn't approved is that they got pretty close to the end. They had a full draft, but that there were still a lot of businesses along the corridor that didn't feel that all of the issues had been worked out. And I'm not sure why it just fell by the wayside, but there were some remaining issues, and some of them were things that were more logistical in nature, like the width of a terrace and whether it has the capacity to handle snow storage, and why do the plow trucks come by and we have these narrow terraces and all of a sudden the plow is pushing snow onto the sidewalks. There were a lot of like things like that that were pretty detailed, and they were raised at the last minute, and that's why the plan was never approved by the city. Our staff went out on Friday afternoon and we walked the entire length of the corridor, and we have a lot of notes for things that we want to see. It was a really good experience for us. It might be a good idea for us to do that at some point with the entire plan commission, certainly with the consultants that are selected for the project. But there is so much opportunity along that corridor, and it's really exciting to think about, what could happen if if the city is able to get bus rapid transit extended, if we're able to make some aesthetic improvements, if we're able to create some cohesive design standards. There are a lot of properties along the corridor right now that are vacant or for sale. So I wouldn't be surprised if we start to see like some proposals coming in very soon for projects. And it's really like prime time right now to be working on this, especially with the new comp plan approved now.
So it will still start with the build plan. We spend a lot of money on that one, right? So, and the second part is probably there will be a huge difference or big difference between west of the Park Street and east of the Park Street, right?
Yep. Yeah, we've kind of been talking about that at a staff level. So the road west of Park Street is narrower, and there's a significant amount of single family housing along the corridor, many historic homes too. And so I agree that that is kind of a visual break in the corridor, and it does make sense to have some different design standards for the segment that's west of Park Street.
Okay, yeah, it's almost all single family homes, or there may be some duplexes, just about, I think they're just all single family homes, so west.
There are some, there's actually a site.
There's a one apartment
sale.
complex.
Yep.
They're just, I think I remember seeing this on the south side of the University Avenue, right across from that park lawn, or just for park lawn. Yes.
Yep.
Yes.
That's on the market for sale right now.
Okay, that's about okay. Other than that, it's all. Okay, so I see all your notes there, robust public participation, and absolutely, I think we want to do that. So what do you want from here? So from us, the motion to approve or recommendation, provide feedback to endorse the release of RFP.
Yes,
Yeah.
and recommend to the council.
Okay.
I would, this is Paulson, I would make that motion to recommend approval as amended to the council.
Okay, I second it.
Schaefer seconds.
Oh, okay, yeah, second by John Schaefer, yes. Okay, now further question or comments? Further questions or comments? Okay.
It's good to see it finally moving forward. So thank you to the council for putting money into it.
So just a clarification, Mayor, that was a motion to the council to recommend approval? We didn't do that with the zoning RFP. That's why I'm asking for clarification.
To approve it and recommend approval to the council, or recommend to council that they approve it. Whatever we did with the.
Is that okay with you? What would
Abby,
you like? Let's ask Abby or Mark, what do you want? What is the
approval? Just as Kurt said, approval and recommend approval to the common council.
Okay. All right.
Is that correct, Daphne? That's what we were thinking.
Okay.
Just what Kurt said.
Yeah, I believe that's correct.
So is everybody okay? Okay, all those in favor of the motion say aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Okay, motion passes. Anybody else has some stories to tell before we? Okay, need a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Yeah.
I'll
Second by,
second.
okay, second by Elder Ramsey. All those in favor of the motion to adjourn and go out for dinner, say aye.
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 Anyone opposed? Okay, thank you, everyone, and have a awesome evening. I know it's raining, but that's okay. Thank you for great input, everyone.
Bye.
Great
Thank
job.
you.
Right on.